Today we are so glad that you could join us, and we wanted to share with you about the veterinary science program, what our students are doing, and how we are expanding it in the next year. So the question about why do we have agriculture in such a suburban area, I like to think of Thomas Jefferson's quote here: agriculture is our wisest pursuit because it will in the end contribute most to real wealth, good morals, and happiness. And sustainability is a huge portion of what we're doing here at Meadows. And we have the plant sustainability, which if you have questions about that, Miss Eubanks, Kirsten Eubanks over there is your go-to. But there's also sustainability within the animal industry as well. That's really important to us. And with our students and the therapy dog program that we have at the school, the sustainability that we get from the animal science portion of this goes more away from food, but as humans, sustaining happiness and contentment with life there. So in our pathway, we've grown quite a bit. So this is our this coming year will be our fourth year with classes. And we start with our students in agricultural biology. That's the freshman year. And this would replace their biology course. So instead of focusing on the study of life with humans, we take the lens of plants and animals. So our students that are in the agricultural biology course begin actually working towards the veterinary pathway by learning about nutrition. So the nutrition unit is based entirely on pet food labels, understanding the life stages, and being able to make decisions based on what they're learning from the animals. So next we start with veterinary science. Those are 10th through 12th graders. So any student in either of those grades could take that class. So the documents that were over here, if you have it, you can take a glance through the topics that we cover in Vet Science 1, 2, and 3. These students are working very frequently with dogs. So we work with the Masonic Association of Service and Therapy Dogs to have a therapy program at the school. And the therapy dogs also come to Vet Science for students to practice skills on. For example, Ralph really loves the lateral recumbency. And yes, but he does not like the sternal. So Sven, which is Miss Eubanks' dog, he's better for sternal, but Ralph is a really great dog to practice and learn the proper way to hold for things like that. Hi, welcome, thank you so much for coming. So they're able to do skills like that. We do TPR, physical exams. All of this is here that you can see what we do. So after the first year where we had Vet Science 1, we saw a huge interest in this program. And that is why we're looking forward to getting to being able to offer the veterinary assistant credential. So we're currently in the application process with NAVTA, North American Veterinary Technician Association, to be able to offer that credential. In order to do that, we'll get to the hours in just a moment, but once they finish Vet Science 1, they move on to Vet Science 2. This is more of the cellular level, so this is going to be things like parasitology. We have a urinalysis lab, trying to think of some more things that we did in Vet Science 2. There's a bunch. You can also see that outline in the packet as well. So that one is focusing more on the behind-the-scenes lab work type deal. And then vet assisting is where we are expanding this year. This is our first year offering it. We're really excited for it. And this is where we want to get students into a clinical setting so that they're able to put what they're learning on this very lazy but sweet dog and actually use it in real life setting. So that is for our 11th and 12th graders. And for the students that we have in our first class, it's pretty split. So there are a good number of juniors and seniors that will be in there. So Gabby will be one of our seniors in the class, and she took Vet Science 1 and 2 this year. So yes, I'll open the floor for her to talk about those in just a moment. So that is the pathway that we have so far. And if you look here, this is showing the growth of our program. So in 2019 to 2020, we only offered Vet Science 1. We had a pretty large number of students. That was right before Well, I guess that was the COVID year. So that number included a few students from other schools as well. Buffalo Grove, I believe, had a couple. Since then, we've scaled back to have more students just at Meadows, but that is changing next year. We're getting those other schools back in as well. So this past year, we were able to add in Vet Science 2, and we had the split there. So you can see that, I believe we had 2 sections here, but the Vet Science 2 had a good number of students that were moving forward into it. These numbers are projected. We don't have the final ones just yet, but we do know we have 2 sections of Vet Science 1, 2 sections of Vet Science 2, and 1 section of Vet Assisting. So the numbers are, I'm excited. I think it's pretty good. So out of a high school of 2,000-ish, we have about 20 that are wanting to go into the animal industry and seriously interested in exploring those options. There's a wide variety of people who are interested in equine, wildlife, exotics, small animal. So they are sponges is the best way I'd like to describe them. They want to know everything, and it's been really awesome to see them in class. So this is the information that is in the packets as well, so I'm not going to stay on this for very long. But this is the overall components of the program. So didactics, students have about 120 hours from the time they're a freshman to the time they're in the veterinary assistant class, covering all of the essential skills that NAVTA deems a veterinary assistant should have. We have about 75 hours of labs and practicals. Again, that's going to be them demonstrating the skills. So in order to move forward in the curriculum, they have to be able to pass whatever the checkpoint is. So for example, the humane restraints, that's something that we teach every single semester, refresh it. The last one we did was a surgical scrub, and also preparing the surgical site with chlorhexidine and alcohol. So yes, and then the final component would be the externship, which is a total of 100 hours over the entirety of the 4 years. For our seniors in our pilot, that timeline is a little bit more constricted, but overall the 4 years that they're in the classes, that's what that would be. So kind of what we're looking for at Meadows, we want some input on, from people in the industry. We want to know how we can make our program better suited to produce students who are good fits for this. We want it to be something that if they want to do veterinary science, let's give them a real taste of it now so that they're able to make that decision for themselves as they move forward. Or if they want to decide that they want to be in the animal industry, but not necessarily in a clinical setting, let's show them that. Let's have them have an experience with that. So for our pilot year, we would like for our veterinary science 1 students, those coming in, to get about 10 hours of clinical experience under their belts. Vet Science 2, we would like to get about 20 hours, and Vet Assisting, because this is the pilot year, would be about 100. Moving forward, we would like to spread that out a bit more. So the groups that are going through Vet Science 1 and Vet Science 2 this year would do 70 of their final year, and that would be the culminating 100 hours. So, Gabby, what would you like to share about your experience or what you're thinking about for the future?
So for my future, actually I have a family member currently at U of I right now taking veterinary courses. She's graduating early in the winter, and then she's hopefully going to get into veterinary medical school. And she's actually just really opened up to me about how her process and actually how her high school year was, how she never got these opportunities. And I'm over here talking about all that we're doing and how we're going on field trips to the Nova quarter horses and how we're dissecting baby pigs and everything. She goes, we never got to do that when we were when I was in high school. So I just think that this is just a really good opening to experience and just to try things new, because not exactly you don't need to become a veterinary, but you can go into different kind of fields where it's interactive with animals. So this is just an easy way to explore the options that you have and what you want to do in your future. So I really am thankful for this course and everything, and I want to thank Ms. Wright and everything.
What questions do you guys have for Gabby? I think it's great to hear from the teachers, but the students I think are what you're interested in, I hope, and would be able to give the student perspective.
Tell me more about the field trips that you've been on.
Well, so we only went on one major field trip for veterinary science 2. We went to Nova quarter horses, where we saw their veterinaries work and how they gave, what did they give?
I can't remember what the process was called, the injections that they had to give to the horse. Do you remember what those were?
Oh, yeah, they were doing joint injections.
Oh, steroids,
so
yeah.
Had a stiff joint.
So we saw how like they how she tests like what joints were like not working so well and like where to put the steroids in. It wasn't like really too interactive, but it was like just nice watching like it happen. And then we also saw how like they the nutrition facts of a horse, just how like the horse barn works, and then also how to like clean a horse's hooves and everything, and like make sure that like they're all good. And then yeah, that was pretty much it, right?
I think so, yeah. Some people got to see some oral medications being given, just depended on where you were and the rotations. So that was really fun.
Yeah. So Gabby, have you done some externship type work? Have you so far?
Not exactly. I haven't done externship, but I am currently like looking for like places to shadow around during the summer, and my cousin actually gave me some people to work with, so that's what I'm going to be doing this summer.
And if I could, these shadowing experiences are, I call them shadowing, some call them internships, some call them externships. It's an experience, right? My daughter came through here in 2013 through 17, and similar to this young lady, had an interest to go into the medical field. And it was physical therapy at the time. And that experience that was provided to her at that time really made a difference. She graduated from 2017 with hundreds of hours at Athletico, experience within physical therapy, and went off to college to do that, and is now working for Medline and really followed that path. As good as it is for kids to have a great experience and learn, it's equally as good to know that maybe it is or isn't for me.
Right.
So that ask of you, and we're just being very honest and open, the experiences that Kirsten and Kendall are providing our students is second to none. It's second to none, and as our district provides these pathways, it's not when a student like this young lady comes through that they must stay in it, right? But they do, as you can see from the numbers, it's growing. From the Mass Dog program after school to the daytime experiences to you being here today, we recognize and understand the need, and you do too. I mean, 18 to 1, that's crazy to think that. We were talking about the amount of people that apply for the positions needed within the field, whether it's an assistant, a tech, or even a doctor. And that's why these are so critical. So it's just kind of an experience that I personally share, because in 2013, when, I don't even know, Kathy, were you here as well at that point?
2019
Yeah, inaugural. I guess time flies, COVID years. When we started talking about this, and I was like, what are we doing? Is this going to benefit? And for it being my daughter, I would treat them like any other student, but I saw it, I witnessed it, I lived it, and now I see the full outcome. So thank you for even considering and trying to be a part of this.
So, I'm sorry, I have more questions. How logistically does the externship hours work? Like, is it supposed to be during the school day? How do they get to these places? So how far away can some of them be? That kind of thing.
That's a great question. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
let Ms.
Yeah.
Rose talk about it.
So, hi, I'm Kelly. I am with the district and I work in the Center for Career Discovery. So we are partnering with, obviously, Rolling Meadows and trying to really get this off the ground. And the way that we are positioning this would be very similar to our internship programs, where we really work with both the student and the office or the clinic and figure out what is going to be best for both. So it can be a variety of things. It can be during the school day. If, for example, the student has, like, I don't know, a late lunch and then a study hall, the district is fully embracing this type of programming where they say, hey, now, Gabby, you've gotten your day so far here, you've got lunch, study hall, you can go off campus, go to your clinic, and start your hours at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If that doesn't work for the clinic or for the student or whatever, then the student can go after school, evenings, weekends, winter break, spring break. It really depends on what's going to be best for everyone.
So it's just getting the hours in, and then it's tailored to the individual
Correct.
circumstance.
Correct. I will admit that a hurdle that we're trying to really figure out is the transportation piece.
Yeah.
Because not all students have vehicles or access to transportation. in certain settings, we're able to, for example, like Heinz VA Hospital, we've got like 5 students that are going there. So now we've got a bus that's able to take 5 students to Heinz VA Hospital. In this type of setting, you know, a student's going to be, maybe 1 or 2 students are going to be at a clinic, and so we're trying to figure out a way to figure out the transportation component. That is the challenging piece.
So a couple of thoughts I have. I'm Dr. Joanne Carlson. I've owned the Loving Care Animal Hospital for 22 years. My first practice was on Kirchhoff, so I was involved with a previous program here. And the way it worked is the kids would come after school, and you know, I'll be very honest, right now we are in a state in veterinary medicine where we are overwhelmed. So I think this is great, but I think it needs to be very structured, what the students can and cannot do. I would have students come that literally just, I could tell, wanted to get out of school and that sort of thing. So I think, you know, somebody like Gabby, good for you. You seem very, you know, interested and motivated, but that's really what we need. From a liability standpoint, I think it's very challenging to allow, you know, I can just think of my own insurance agent handling. It's very questionable. Is there going to be any insurance coverage from the student standpoint? Because I've been very proactive. I work with Harper, their veterinary assistant program. Joliet Community College is a veterinary technician program, and we have to be very careful about what we allow them to do, because if there's a bite, a fall, I had a young student come one day to shadow me, and she fainted and hit her head. So, you know, we have ambulances and all that. So liability, that's something to consider. What exactly, and also the other thing is, just like this is a great outline, but they need an outline of what they should be learning and observing and checked off. So in the past, we would work with your former protege, was a lovely lady named Miriam Schnabel. I just love Miriam. But we would, you know, meet with her, my assistant would, and kind of go over. But I think that's phenomenal. I also think if we want to really make this a veterinary assistant opportunity, I think that's great, because when we talk about veterinary medicine, right now the statistics are really grim as far as getting into veterinary schools. There's basically 32 in the country. They're accepting about 120. It's 94% female. Yay, women. But the problem is that because of the past 2 years, the enrollment number, the application numbers, there are actually 800 students applying for each position. It's the highest ever. I'm on the veterinary state board. I'm going to be the president, I think, in November. But it's one of those things where I think we want to just, if we want to give someone an exposure to veterinary assistant, that's great. But I think before we say, I'd like everybody to just have a clear picture, because I often have students that come and say, I want to be a veterinarian. You watch Animal Planet, it seems very exotic. But in reality, you know, our day-to-day existence can be very challenging. So I think it's great we give them exposure, but I would like everybody to kind of have an open mind about where we're at. So one of the first things I ask students that say, oh, I'd love to be a veterinarian, is I say, well, what's your GPA? Because quite frankly, the mean average of people getting into veterinary school is 3.75 to 4. And I have mentors. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite students came from Rolling Meadows. Abby, her name is Klima now, but wonderful girl. And she has been a veterinarian now for about 10 years. And, you know, she was at the top of her class. So I think it's great. I love seeing girls in STEM. I have got a daughter that's a senior at Arizona, wants to go to medical school, fortunately not veterinary school. But I think this is great. I just would like to see some more tweaking of the logistics, because in my daily life, practicing, it's very difficult. So if a student comes, I need them to have their specific, you know, protocol, and to be able to work with, you know, my assistant Allie. Like, this is what we're doing, and this is their role. Because we really are just, I could hire 3 more veterinarians today, and it just is one of those things. But veterinary assistants, bring them on. We love them.
Can we talk first about, the first point you brought up was the insurance liability?
Correct.
Can we talk about that?
Yes. So I can talk to that, and then maybe you can talk to the competencies, because I feel like you had a really great list of that. So as far as the insurance component, when a student is doing this internship, externship, it will be given a course number, and it will be on the student's actual schedule. And because of that, the student is under District 214's umbrella of insurance and liabilities.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
We approach, and this is an ongoing question, not only for this program, but think about industrial applications like manufacturing,
Right.
where they're welding, manufacturing, metal cutting.
Yeah.
Aviation, we're at an airport, they're calling around an aircraft that's
Yeah.
running.
Absolutely.
So this has been something that's been on our minds for
Yeah.
many, many years
Right.
and has been resolved.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you.
The moment a student is paid for any of the work that they're doing at a clinic, at a manufacturer's, at an auto, wherever, then they go under your insurance and liability. They're not being paid, so they are under our insurance and liability. And so that includes evenings, weekends, the breaks, because it's called extended school hours, extended school days.
Great.
So it's all with us.
And are they graded as well in this
Yes.
course? Excellent.
Yep.
You want to talk about that, because I know you're looking for structure, and if there's anyone that has structure, it would be these two ladies.
So the form that we have here, I broke down based on the essential skills that NAVTA says veterinary assistants should be able to complete. And I have it, and I'm happy to email this to you, but I have it broken down in two different ways. So I have it based on the class and the competencies that they are learning in that class, as well as just the general, this is just an order of how NAVTA has outlined it. And so each of these things, there is some sort of like objective check that they have to pass in order to move forward. Some of them have been filmed, so I'm happy to even share with you some of the objective checks that we've already done that have been filmed. Gabby could show you a few as well, I'm sure. Just throw you on the spot there. And so this would be something that I would love your feedback on, like month one. These are the top things that you should focus on being able to do. For example, I would think the sanitation portion would be really important, preparing a room after an exam, and then getting it ready to go for the next one. Perhaps it's preparing fecal slides. You know, get them, they know that it's going to be nitty gritty, their hands are going to be dirty during this. And so these are all things that I will have, my goal is that I will have witnessed them do in class, or Ms. Eubanks also teaches the classes, before we move them on to your clinic. So a little background on both of us. So we're both trained in agricultural colleges. Agricultural education was my degree. But when my husband was in medical school, I was very lonely on the weekends because, as you know, any type of medical school is a lot of studying. So I worked at a clinic on the weekends, and that's where my clinical knowledge comes from. Obviously, it is informal training, you could say. I'm certainly not a certified vet tech or any of that, but so we do have experience as far as working with identifying these are the things that we do want them to do. We would love your feedback as well. And so this is the outline of the specific competencies that we are looking for them to do. And again, this is by class. So, oh wait, I'm sorry, this one's by class. So for our veterinary assisting, which will be piloted next year, I've got my document slipped. Okay, this one is my class. Okay, so here. So the very last one, this is where I really wanted to prepare students for working with people. A lot of the first two classes is working on the hands-on skills with the animals. So when you're talking about euthanasia, how do you speak with clients who are having to euthanize their animal? What's the process as far as, like, for example, having them pay before it happens so they're able to just leave immediately, they don't have to worry about any of the logistical things, ways that you can express sympathy, like a paw print, the Rainbow Bridge poem, things like that. That's something that we'll be covering in veterinary assisting as well as some of the specific paperwork. Because if you do have them do the TPR, for example, they need to be able to record that. We start with SOAP notes in Vet Science 1, so that's something that they learn pretty early on, and this is just really fine-tuning the things that you need for your CYA, you could say, and your clinical notes, but also preparing them to work with the humans that they'll see too. So, is there anything specific I could show you, or anything in particular
I think
you'd like
it's
to
all
see?
excellent. It's very impressive. I really applaud you discussing the euthanasia, because that is something that was always challenging with the students. They would come in, and then that is something, unfortunately, that's a daily component of our career. But the other thing I would mention is a confidentiality clause.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we are in the area, I've lived in this area, worked, and my children are here. So many times we'll have students that will recognize a neighbor or something, and we have them sign a confidentiality that's not appropriate. We don't have HIPAA, but it's not appropriate to be discussing with their friends, oh, we saw so-and-so's dog in there, it has this or that. So some sort of confidentiality, appropriate conduct.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I can talk to that a little bit, but it's a little bit of an apples and oranges comparison, but nonetheless, we are perpetually looking for more hospitals and doctors' offices and clinics and so forth to partner with, because so many students are interested in some sort of health science career pathway, and that has been a really big challenge. So what's been terrific is that some of our really big hospital groups, Northwest Community Hospital, Amita, which is now Ascension, I believe, forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, there's always merging and things going on. They have very comprehensive packets and like onboarding and semi-training that they do prior to the student even just restocking, supplies. So they're not necessarily going in with patients or scrubbing into surgery or whatnot, but even restocking supplies or paperwork or answering phones, they have to go through extensive amounts of paperwork, confidentialities, bits of training, in order to exactly avoid those types of situations. Everything that happens in these environments should be confidential, and we are also interviewing the students to know that we can count on these students to complete all the paperwork and necessary training, and that they are committed to this experience and they will abide by the confidentialities and things that they need to in order to respect the practice as well as get the most out of that experience as well. So I've shared some of those packets of information with even like a therapist's office, because she's like, the student can't come in on a therapy session, but the doctors all come together once a week and talk about their cases and what they are, looking to bounce ideas off of one another and brainstorm and find solutions. The student's going to be able to be a part of that, and the student needs to keep it confidential.
And
So,
yeah, I would absolutely love to have a onboarding manual, and I would love to include the waiver or the confidentiality agreement in there. We have one specifically for the school, but I'm positive that we could develop one that would be
And
appropriate
including
for
social
clinical
media,
too.
because as we know, social media is a very large proponent of
Right.
teenage life.
Mhm.
That also could be very
Sure.
detrimental. Unfortunately,
Yes.
things can be misconstrued easily, and so I think that would be ideal to have on board. I think that would probably get more practitioners, allowing students to kind of.
Absolutely. Thank you. We'll definitely add that.
I agree. Because social media isn't going to be a huge part of a therapist or a medical field, but kitties and puppies and stuff, yeah. they're
We
gonna
have
be
2,000 followers for our clinics. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
totally different, so that's a good one.
So I think as far as some other, let's see. So we do have, and this is more the program handbook, that folder that you see there, that's more like our guidelines for the animals that we have here in class as far as how many touches that they have when we leave them alone, their work breaks outside, you could say. But I'm happy to show you anything from our planning. Like I said, we are in the application process with NAVTA, so we're not through just yet. We have working on the revisions that they've requested, and then we'll be applying to that again at the end of the summer. But regardless of whether or not we're accepted for the official accreditation, this experience is very important for our students, I think, and something that we would still want to move forward with and have them have that opportunity to do those things. So, yeah, what other questions can we answer for you? Or for Gabby, any questions for Gabby?
So Gabby, are you thinking of going to veterinary school?
I am thinking of doing it. And I don't know exactly what field I want to go in exactly, so I was gonna use this veterinary assisting to see what kind of field, but I've worked with I've worked with horses, I've ridden horses, so I know that, and I've also have a dog, and I watch my cousin's dog, and worked with cats, but Yeah, so I'm definitely interested in it.
That's wonderful. So one thing I would also recommend, you talked about field trips, every year the University of Illinois has an open house at the veterinary medicine. So that might be a great field trip
Absolutely.
to go on. And
April.
it seems as if,
April? Okay.
you know, anybody who's interested needs to go on down there. And at University of Illinois, we are still under the track that you become a veterinarian. We do you're basically licensed for everything. So there are certain schools who do tracks, small, large, or et cetera, you know, wildlife. But we still do everything there. So there's no need to decide what to do. But I think really going down and seeing what it entails is pretty, I love the cow here. Because there we have a fake cow that goes, you know, from one end to the other. And it's really something. So good
Yes.
for
You
you.
said that's U of I in April?
Yes, I think it's in April. They changed it over the years, but yeah. So it's back.
Absolutely. I know they just started a post-bac program as well
So, right.
for students. So they've got a lot of really cool things in their outreaching
Very,
as
very
well.
interesting, yes.
So-
Very innovative. They've changed the whole process of, for the veterinary students. It used to be we didn't see a live animal for 2 years, and now the first week they're in the clinics doing things. So it's really, I was chatting with the dean about it, and I said, this is fantastic. So there's a lot more hands-on experience, a lot more real life, you know, veterinary stuff.
Absolutely.
Easy.
So I am gathering that the purpose of this presentation meeting was to get some of these mentors for the externships and so that the students can get out and do that. What I'm asking, because you know that I am now a substitute teacher here, is what would you be interested in for the classroom as far as having people come in, you know, let's say somebody wasn't willing to take on a student for an externship, but they're like, I could come in on an afternoon and discuss this or show this. So I'm just wondering, you know, what kinds of things there, and then like, you know, the fecal stuff. If a clinic says, oh, this cat has roundworms and coccidia, would you like them to save some of the poop and, you know, bring it in and then you guys can do the floats here? You know, I'm just wondering, like, what else besides the pairing for the externship, what else could we help you with? or
Literally anything, yes. All of the above. So we actually, that's one of my favorite emails to send every year is to all my fellow dog lovers, may I please have your dog's poop for a lab tomorrow. I always get strange. There are some people I have to be careful who I add to that email. But then you'll walk in one day and there will just be a line of poop bags. So we did do the fecal sample. Actually, so this was very interesting. It was in the winter and I collected Ralphs from outside. We saw crystals, ice crystals. I had never seen that before. It was very funny, but yeah, so that's definitely something, especially because a lot of the dogs that we have, the therapy dogs, they're required to obviously be on preventative, so we don't find a lot. I would
Right.
love to have some that
Right.
have something for them to see. Although I will say the crystal definitely threw me for a loop. I was like, what
It's
in
the
the world is
shelter
that?
animals and the puppies and that you're gonna get all this good stuff.
We did. We found roundworms and Mr. Jones's puppy, actually, Dan Jones's puppy.
Confidentiality.
You're right. I apologize.
Just thinking.
You're right. Thank you. But he was, yes. But it was a puppy, you know, just brand new. So obviously I need to sign that certification or that waiver myself. Yeah, so definitely anything. We would love to expand all of it. So this year we are actually hoping to do for our nutrition unit, we wanted to do a ruminant and monogastric dissection. And I found a butcher downtown, but I had to have all this information saying that I was using it for educational purposes, and I had to have a letterhead, and which is fine, we can do that. But anything that brings those hands-on opportunities, yes, we would love to do it. It's absolutely. Is there anything that we haven't done that you're like, man, I really wish we could do that?
Not exactly. I mean,
You may not know what you don't know about what you could
that
do.
is
If that makes
true.
sense. So
We did casturations. We also
Yeah.
did dissecting. We did blood work. Not exactly blood work,
Yeah.
but taking blood. What else?
a bunch. There's a
Yes.
bunch of things, but yeah. So I would love to get more professionals who do this daily in as well. So we actually, my husband is a doctor. He comes in and teaches suturing, which are things that vet assistants would not do. But it's something that is important in a medical field to just experience that. So the veterinary assisting credential wants us to focus on the things that vet assistants do. I would like to expand it a bit more to say, like, these are things you could do at higher levels as well. So things like suturing. But absolutely. Yeah, so our cow friend there, we were, it's actually very neat. So you can put in simulated blood and draw out the blood. We have some canine legs you can do it with as well. It's quite fun. Yeah. So absolutely, whatever ideas you have, I'd love to hear.
I've been thinking.
Ever since I saw that on the thing upstairs.
So, and she was referencing the castration. We made some, for a fun final,
Yes.
we used some simulated materials and practiced the surgical preparation for the site, and then just had some fun with it. So we used balloons and pom-poms. We did not use actual.
And Jello.
Yes, and Jello. Yes, the Jello. How did I forget the Jello? It's quite fun. And actually, one of my favorite stories actually about the vet science class is, so Ralph has a lipoma. It popped up out of nowhere, as lipomas do, and one of my students found it actually, Tommy, during the physical exams. And afterwards I was like, yeah, I must have really taught that well if he found that. But yeah, that was exciting. And from there we were able to have the lipoma tested to make sure that it was a lipoma. But that was a really cool experience for a student to find that. Although I do think Tommy was a little freaked out to tell
I think
me.
he was.
That's right, your dog has a lump. But yeah.
No, you're nervous because he wasn't coming in for the day, so we're like, oh no.
Yes.
So lipomas are very common in older dogs, and I have a CO2 laser, which is how I do my surgeries. So rather than using the scalpel, it's like holding a pen, and it emits a certain wavelength of light, and it basically makes the incision, and there's very little swelling, bleeding. I could do a whole spay or neuter without any blood. So it's really interesting. And I actually, over the years, I was just thinking we used to have a lot of Girl Scouts in, and I would have them stand behind, you're supposed to wear goggles and that, so they would stand behind the window and watch. But Allie was just saying that might be an interesting field trip for the students to come.
Absolutely.
And to see the CO2 laser, because only about 20% of us have that in the Chicagoland area.
That's really
So
cool.
it's the way I do all my surgery. So it's really, really,
That's really cool.
it's really interesting. Yeah, I enjoy it. So something different.
No, I'll volunteer Ralph.
Yeah.
Get him
Is
signed
he
up.
your dog?
He is, yes.
Oh.
Yes. So Ralph has been with us from the beginning, but like I said, the therapy dogs are our patients a lot of the time. So Ralph, I got Ralph with the intention of him being a vet science dog, and
He
he's
looks perfect.
yeah, thank you. He's pretty good, except not nail trims. I do not let students do nail trims.
Oh.
He is not a fan.
We did
So.
an anal gland though.
We did do the anal glands. Students were not a fan of that one,
No.
but
Nobody is really.
Ralph didn't mind it so much. I think he felt better. Yeah, so absolutely. I think students would love to see the surgeries.
Any other questions for us?
No,
Thoughts, ideas?
I think it's fantastic. I'm very excited for Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. Wow, this is great. The room is great. I will say that this room is very similar to the room at Harper. I did teach a class there years ago. I don't want to age myself, but it was on exotic animal medicine handling, and I think I went out to Prospect once to teach a class. But this is a great room, and I love all the models because even in veterinary medicine, there are very few live animal teaching opportunities. So models are really, imperative. But this is great. I love this dog here. I just think it's really wonderful, and getting students into, I was just reading an article about, whether, we all, discuss college, but, not everybody is ready for that platform. So this would be a wonderful opportunity for a student to, once you're NAFTA certified, which I understand is a process, to, get into a career that necessarily doesn't entail, a 4-year degree and several $100,000 of debt.
Right,
So,
there's so many different levels. There's the veterinary assistant, there's the certified veterinary
Correct.
technician, there's the veterinarian, there's,
Right.
and then you can go into industry,
Mhm.
you can go into pet food, you can go, equine.
Exactly.
I have a colleague, a classmate who does only exotic animals, so that might be fun, if I can see what he could do.
Absolutely, yes. I have zero experience with exotics, so we don't touch on it much. Mostly, it's the dogs and cats. So that is an area that we are lacking in. I would love to add more on that
Yeah.
side.
Yes, we interviewed at least 1 or 2 students that wanted exotics.
Yes.
Or wild and all of it, and I'm just like, not a lot of that around these parts.
Yes, I know we have 2 students interested in specifically wildlife,
Yeah.
and then 2 in exotics. But mostly they just want in.
Yeah.
So I think
Right,
they'd be
right.
happy with anything.
Right.
But that's their overall interest would be definitely with
So
those.
the other option you might suggest to students, for over the summer, when I was a young girl, I volunteered at the Lincoln Park Zoo and the Brookfield Zoo. They both have programs for students, and I do see exotics. I've had to scale back with everything just because we're so busy in general, but I did an externship, a fellowship at Lincoln Park Zoo, and that's really what I wanted to do, but I didn't want to go to school for another 4 years. So, but we do see exotics and birds, reptiles, guinea pigs, rabbits, but again, we've had to tweak that a bit just because we're really, last year, I think pet ownership went up about 68%. So we are just trying to get all the dogs and cats in that we can because it's been challenging. But yeah, exotics are fun, but they are difficult. When you get a red and blue macaw and you have to do a nail trim and get blood from it, or even a cockatiel, getting blood from a cockatiel, I often say I would rather have the feistiest pit bull than a bird, trying to get blood from a bird because we get it from the jugular vein. Very challenging because your goal is to get the blood and to not kill them because birds like to die. That's why many of us don't see birds because, a dead bird is not good for business.
No.
That was always my disclaimer before I'd see a bird.
Right?
You know that the stress of just
Exactly,
seeing me.
right?
Oh, gosh.
Yes.
So there's a place in Arlington Heights, and I just was there last week, and it seems fabulous. It's called Parrot Stars.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, I've been there.
So
And-
I drive past that all the time. What is it?
Yes,
It's a
it's
store.
all birds. It's
Mhm.
only
It's
birds.
a store to
Mhm.
buy birds.
Yeah.
It's a store, but they also rescue.
Yep.
They also
Wow.
kennel. They do the trims and the blood work, and it's fabulous.
Yeah.
And they sell too, right?
Yes.
Because Riley, one of our student Riley.
Yeah,
was
she's
there.
interning there.
She's so excited. She showed me. I think they were selling an African gray parrot for
Yes.
$7,000.
Oh, yeah.
Whew.
Yep.
She's very excited. Yeah, she showed me that the other day.
It is. It was.
I was like, that's a car.
That's a nice place,
It's
yes.
Wow.
It was fun. So
Yes.
speaking of birds,
I have a
send
client
them the
that
Parrot Stars.
has 10 large parrots that he actually bought a 20,000 square foot place on Northwest Highway just to keep them. So he would bring them in 2 by 2 for blood, and these were not birds that were handled at all.
Oh, boy.
And so, we have to be very careful because I really only have one assistant that can handle them because these birds could take your finger off like that.
Mhm.
So it was interesting. I was very glad when we were done because he wanted them sexed and trimmed and taken care of, and then he said, I'll put them in the sanctuary, and I said, great. So, but yeah, that's a nice place, the Parrot Stars.
Yes. Yes.
And I guess if you know of anybody else locally here, other partners that would be interested in hearing what you heard today, we'd also like to talk with
Sure.
them.
I think what we'll do is we'll take a picture and we'll put it on our Facebook, and I'll
you.
talk to
Yeah.
some of my colleagues and let them know.
If there's
Because
people-
I wasn't aware of any of this. So when Allie told me, I said, oh, okay, let's
Right.
go and see what it's about.
And it takes the right person, please know that too.
Correct.
It takes the right person to work with a 14 to 17-year-old student while at work,
Yes.
while trying to shadow them. It takes
Exactly.
the right person.
Very, very much so. And that, I think, is what is imperative, because if they're not serious about it,
Right.
for example, Allie had a contact at Palatine High School, and one of the counselors, individuals said that they were very interested in veterinary medicine, wanted to come shadow. She did all the legwork,
Yep.
just didn't show up.
Oh.
Infuriating.
It happens.
So
Yeah.
these
Yeah, it's
sorts of
frustrating.
opportunities right now are golden.
Yes.
Because, again, our time is, I can't stress enough. I mean, between the veterinary shortage, which currently we're graduating 2,400, the big study was put out, we need at least 4,800 for the amount of pets that we have in the United States. So there's that, but also the staff turnover, all that won't bore you with all that. But when we do allow a student to come in, they really need to realize this is a great opportunity, and it's
A big privilege.
right.
And
because
that's,
when-
and as you can see, that's the commitment from this program.
Correct.
And from the
I'm
district.
very-
It's
very
not like
impressed.
you said, and we've had that where counselors are, I need somebody to feel, could benefit. And we're like, we all could benefit, but it's an ask.
Correct.
And it's a big ask of someone like yourself and your
Yes.
business. This is not
Yes.
a weekend experience. This is a
Exactly.
commitment, so.
I think it all sounds wonderful.
Well, thank you.